Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to May the 18th Legislative Committee meeting. So we'll start off with the adoption of the agenda. Thank you, Councillor Berry. Makes a motion. Is there any additions or deletion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you. Next up, adoption of the minutes of our last regular ledge meeting. Councillor Lemko, thank you very much. Everybody's had a chance to go over them. That's exactly what everybody said in those minutes. So all those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Okay, so Jameson, we have a delegation waiting.
We do indeed. I'll admit her now.
Okay. Well, hello, Jasmine.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I am good. Jasmine, do you know everybody here on the screen?
From what I can see, yeah, I think I've met everyone before.
Yeah. Excellent. Say hi to all those people that are watching on YouTube.
Hello, yeah.
Okay, so I've been going over your study that you did here, and that was a lot of work.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
I definitely want to thank you before we get started, because I might forget at the end. But there was a lot of really good points in there in this whole thing. So we will turn this meeting over to you, and you'll explain what your findings were and how you got there.
Okay, awesome. So today we're going to be presenting on the COVID-19 well-being survey, which took place from January up until March, well, with all the data analysis and everything. So I'm here presenting on behalf of Vegreville and District Fcss. On our team, we had Julie and Teresa, as well as myself, working on this project. Jameson, I was just wondering, are we going to share the slides, or was I supposed to share the slides?
I was not instructed to have the slides ready for sharing. I think, I'm not sure, I may be able to, on the fly, give you permission to share the slides by making you a presenter. And I think you might already even have that if you go into share screen.
Okay.
I apologize.
It's all good. One sec, I'll just get them here. Okay, so we have this here. Okay. Sorry, everyone. I'm just going to be a second here.
Take your time.
Okay, is everyone able to see the PowerPoint? Or...
I do believe so, yep.
Okay, I'm just going to zoom it out here a little bit. Is it full screen? Yes?
Jasmine, if you full screen yours, then we should have it on full screen.
Okay.
Now, if you expand it out, that'll be great.
Okay, awesome. So, as I was, the COVID-19 well-being survey, which took place from January to March. So our desired outcomes of the survey for FCSS from that standpoint was to obtain local data about how COVID-19 is really impacting Vegreville and the County of Minburn, community engagement to share how people are feeling, strategic direction, apply information, and ensure meaningful programming and services can be then implemented from the data we gathered for grant applications, and then regional partnership and data. So FCSS can work from a regional perspective. So who responded to the survey? So we have 250 total respondents to the survey. 110 were print and 140 were taking place online. We found that 72% of homeowners were homeowners, 72% were female, 24% were male, 97% did as Canadian citizens. We found a large majority were town residents and 17% in the surrounding area, and a high majority, 81%, were families that answered this survey. And then so when we look at age here, we have quite a few surveys that actually came in that had great representation of kind of the middle-aged individual from 31 to 46 kind of. We also did get some youth engagement, that 19 to 30-year-olds, as well as some under 18 who engaged. So we thought that was really excellent that we could snapshot that age group, whereas before we may have gotten more seniors, but everything kind of evened out fairly well. So what were we told from this survey data? So we asked, how would you say your mental health and personal well-being has changed due to COVID-19? And so we actually found that 59% overwhelmingly, the majority pretty much, felt that their mental health was worsening due to the COVID-19 crisis. We asked, how concerned are you about the following impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic? And we actually found that loss of social connection, uncertainty about the future, family members' mental health, and overloading the healthcare system, and family members' physical health were the highest that scored. We found things like wearing their masks, or like big ticket items like that, that have been of controversy, weren't as high. We asked, what other concerns do you have? And here the majority of the answers we got were related to the economy, mental health, uncertainty about the future, and loss of connection to their friends and family. So we see a lot of people who have experienced job loss or are currently experiencing altered hours and stuff like that. So we see that through these word bubbles we had here. Hardships for local businesses. From a mental health standpoint, we see increased stress, people getting kind of zoomed out, tired of time on the computer, feeling ashamed for being sick. We see the uncertainty, how long is this going to last? Loss of social connection, and this was diminished social ties, right? Not being able to get out there with your family and so on. We asked, what about the current situation? Have you experienced, thinking about the current situation, have you experienced any of the following? And we found that feeling helpless, moments of anxiety, feeling more tired than usual, changes in sleep quality, and loss of interest and pleasure in your daily activities were the highest. And we saw this among both males and females. We had very much the same proportion, around the 50s and 40%. And we actually found high within the 70s that younger adults are feeling the most impact, that are feeling the most helpless, that they can't control their situation, right? So then these are just other comments that we had from this question 4, things pertaining to mental health, having lots of up and downs, physical health, right? Not being able to get out to the fitness centers or even just get out into your community to engage with others, right? For longer responses here, we see this one here in the bottom left-hand corner. I suspect that I am lucky than the majority of people in that I am retired and healthy, have adequate income and good relations with family members. We see that a lot of the younger people, we saw actually a trend of a lot of the younger people that were here in Vegreville saying that because they don't have strong social ties to the community or others they can relate with during the pandemic, they're experiencing higher rates of internalizing symptoms. So that's whether that's mental health, anxiety, depression, right? We asked, how much of the following negatively impacted your state of mind? And so the top 5s were the continuous TV and social media coverage, mandatory restrictions for the provincial government, trying to keep up and understanding the guidelines and recommendations. There was a lot of confusion with that, and we saw that sentiment through a lot of the comments as well. We saw fear of being infected or infecting someone, and then the situation of someone close to you. As I mentioned earlier, things like not being able to wear a mask and those types of things were lowest concern. And these are just other thoughts that were expressed. So people have no motivation. People are concerned about their health, lack of leadership, feeling like I failed in life. So we asked how people feel within their community in terms of sense of belonging, connection. And we saw 50% said they had a strong kind of support network and connection to their community. And we saw 44% said that it was weak. And so that's a little bit concerning when we think about our youth and young adults within the community, how everything would be impacting them, right? If they did not have a small tie, if they're a new family just moving here, how COVID-19 would have been impacting them. Question 8, we asked in times of stress and need, who do you turn for help and support? Family, followed by friends and faith groups were the highest. And then we were excited to find that 93% do have access to technology to connect with others. So definitely that's the alternative, right? If you can't see your family members in person. We asked, do you feel that you've experienced an increase in discrimination since the pandemic started? We saw that 83% said no and 17% said yes. We did not specifically ask in terms of what discrimination, but we can guess, right? Whether it be through following restrictions or just increased discrimination based on the grounds of discrimination like race, gender, etc. We asked, do you feel that you have the health and personal well-being support you need? And 24% said no. And this was interesting because through the comments, we found that a lot of people knew what was in the community or what could be offered to them, but they still felt that they don't have those supports available to them. So this is the follow-up to that. So 78% said yes, they know about the well-being, the resources in their communities. But again, we see that 24% above, right, feel that they don't have those supports. So have you or anyone in your household lost their job or experienced job instability due to COVID-19 pandemic? And we find that 45% say their income is secure, but 45% are experiencing some form of job loss, and 19% are concerned that if the pandemic were to go on and how it is now with further restrictions, that they may experience job loss. And then since the beginning of the pandemic, how has it been for you and your household to meet its needs? 38% said they did have difficulty meeting their financial needs. And then if the current COVID-19 restrictions and the way the pandemic's progressing does not change for a couple of months, we find that 54% would experience no change to their financial situation, whereas 33% will experience worsening financial situations. We asked about household needs like food, clothing, that kind of stuff. And we found that majority who took the survey, said 65, said that it was unlikely, whereas 3% said it was unsure, and 24% said neither likely nor unlikely. And we can also maybe attribute that to being unsure of the future. And here are some more statistics. We ask about personal hygiene products and stuff, clothing. We see unlikely, likely, neither likely nor unlikely, and unsure. This was interesting. We asked if they've been financially unable to purchase PPE, right? Hand sanitizer, masks, whatever that may be. And 15% said, yes, they're not able to purchase those essential things. We asked, how likely is it that you will need to move in the next 6 months because you can no longer afford your home? We see that 68% said it is unlikely, whereas we have 8% likely, 9 who are unsure, and 16 saying neither. When we look back to our age statistics here, we see those middle-aged families making up a proportion of our survey, right? So that's a tad bit concerning. We say, what is your outlook on your financial stability after the COVID-19 pandemic? 66% are concerned, 34% are not concerned. There we go. We asked about financial relief services. We saw a majority of people saying that either they did not qualify for services or they did not need them. There was no need for them. And we especially see that among seniors. Nearly 70% here say that they have not needed any financial services. We asked, do you feel businesses are following the provincial restrictions? 85% of them said yes, and 14% said no within the town of Vegreville. What would make you feel safer when you're accessing these businesses within our community? And we saw things like stronger enforcement of the public health restrictions, more online ordering options, just stuff about municipal enforcement, and again, stronger enforcement of the rules. We asked, do you have ideas or suggestions on programs that could be offered to you to keep your spirits up during the COVID-19? And we saw things like right on Vegreville, like we loved the downtown Halloween parade, that kind of thing that went on, the drive-through Santa. There was an overwhelming sentiment for the Slick. Everyone thought it was a great idea with Fcss. And we also saw more people requesting online programming for middle-aged adults, young adults, and youth. And then we also saw like more outdoor activities that could be implemented within the community. So we asked, how do you prefer to participate in these programs? We saw 65% in person, 32 virtual, and 12 other. The other things, comments were more like both or doesn't really matter, those kind of things. We asked about the long-term outlook and future of Vegreville's well-being. And so respondents had kind of this feeling of neutrality in terms of recovery. They thought on average, we had about 54. That was our score, where 100 being the best, 0 being the worst. People don't think we're going to recover better or worse than other communities. And then we have here what changed for the better since the COVID-19 pandemic. And we see lots more things of people kind of shifting their priorities, like I'm spending more time with family, I'm getting to learn my skills, more me time, just more of that self-care. And what has changed for the worst? So again, we see this here with the economic concern, with the mental health and the uncertainty and so on. We have, would you be interested in having more information about where to help? And if yes, what would you like to have? Here we saw just more advertisement. People want more flyers, more things on social media, more condensed versions that are accessible. So here, our last question here to wrap up the survey, we asked just for general feedbacks and comments. We had lots of thank you for doing this survey. I like Vegreville. We can all try to foster resilience. Lots of praise for the Fcss programs that have been ongoing through the pandemic. So yeah, longer comments here. Just, yeah, a lot of pandemic fatigue and people wanting more information-based sharing from the town on what's going on with the COVID-19 pandemic. So would you like to see, would like to see the town of Vegreville find a way to help get more exercise? We see these in these sentiments for more programming and stuff that people wanted to keep their spirits up. And here, let's take positive action. And I believe you guys will be getting a copy of these slides so you can read those. Okay, and then we have here, so what stood out to you in this survey? And here I'm going to hand it over to Phil, Jameson, Tina, and Gerald, I believe. They have some some pieces to add.
Councillor Aurora, do you want to lead this as the FCSS chair, or do you want me to?
You know what, I maybe just had a presentation on this, so we can maybe speak to a little bit, Phil, and then if you want, jump in at any point. So obviously, Councillor Lemko and I have a little bit of an advantage that we have seen this before and had some notes out of it. There's still some adjustments that will be made, but we think that most of the 4 categories that came out are pretty fair. When you look at what some of the before COVID-19 Vegreville district FCSS top 4 priorities, if you look back to what the priorities were for 2018 to 2021, we look at connection and inclusion, coping skills, youth engagement, transportation. It is kind of interesting to see that some of our pre-COVID issues are very much, our priorities are very much what we're dealing with now. One thing I would say about the survey is we noted some areas that we actually found very encouraging because, you know, one of the town's primary was how to support people concerned about job losses. And what we have seen is that there was actually a more stable rate for employment than maybe what we had feared originally. We also were able to see that there was somewhat less usage of some of the programs than maybe again what we had feared as we had gone through it. One of the things also that it was a little more in-depth, and you guys will get to see as you go through it a little further, that we thought was encouraging is we do see a noticeable change in the communication that has come from the town, which was, I know, a big initiative of the towns, that they have been working on ways to get better communication out. And one of the places that could be seen was under the category with the mental health, whether there's mental health well-being support that you need. While there is a group of the 24 approximately percent that maybe said no, the bigger picture to look at is that 76% said yes. At one point when we would ask the question, even when I began on the FCSS board, and there would be a question about, is there enough supports? Do you know where to access them and how to access them? The answers was quite often very high, the opposite way, that people were saying they didn't know how. So I think that's a good testament to see that they have come up in those numbers. One area we discussed earlier that I would like to bring up, though, is that we do think that there could be some shift or change in some of the numbers that were there because some of these impacts may not fully have been seen yet. A couple of the areas is we do have some concern as they're starting the process federally for auditing and reviewing some of the programs. People are only right now being asked at times for repayment to some of the programs they may have seen. So we think there might be some shift and change there. As well, when it came to the access regarding access to food, while right now there is quite a good number that said that they weren't concerned in that level, one of the things that needs to be watched going forward is they may not be concerned because the needs are being met, but that doesn't automatically equate to meaning that because the needs are being met, there isn't a need for the food that's gone down, or that it may not increase. You have to take into consideration, because of some of the programs that have been out there, some of the donations and extra subsidies, there is, and we've talked about this with a couple of other provincial food banks and groups, and did find that because those subsidies and programs are there, it may mean that those people are answering no, they're not unlikely to run out, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the need has gone down. So in discussion with Julie today, we did talk about that. And one of the things that came forward was that, yes, the food bank did see that it didn't rapidly increase with the onset of COVID, but as it's pushed forward, they're now seeing a little bit of an increase now more so. So those are just little things to watch because I think the survey kind of highlighted the areas of the main concerns, but we do know that things could shift and change economically as we move forward. So those are just some of the notes I had from going earlier. Anything else, Phil, you wanted to jump in on?
Thanks. I think you captured most of it, but delving into a lot of the comments, even things like the initiatives that the town worked on with, say, even the Chamber of Commerce and with tourism and culture about, supporting the restaurants. Those things were all noticed by the public, and we were getting that message clearly out to the community to help support these kinds of businesses. And again, just offering, alternatives to our public on how they can better themselves, protect themselves. So I think we captured most of it. The next slide, I guess we don't have it up there. Do you see FCSS's priorities changing or staying the same based on the survey results, what we're seeing experienced in the community? This project ultimately started with myself and Julian, Teresa, and Jasmine. FCSS is predominantly known for preventative. So we asked that question that because they are prevention, are the things that they started, like Councillor Waller said, in 2018 and 2019, they started these projects. Did that help in COVID? We'd like to say yes, and then we'll always, they're going to always continue to advance with their strategic priorities. But it was interesting. The whole survey was actually very interesting, and I can't thank Jasmine enough for doing this. The next slide. Nope, next one. Yeah. So many Canadians are rethinking their priorities, and this is quite interesting. Number one, focusing on family. COVID, of course, affected all of us, but when you look through a lot of the comments, people found time to spend more time with their family. Their lives had to slow down. You're locked in your homes, and they focused on their family. More game nights, more movie nights, eating supper around the table, those kinds of things. The physical health. People, of course, yes, our facilities are closed down, but it's very interesting to see right across the country how people are finding new inventive ways to do their physical health. And we noticed that people getting outside this winter and walking, doing online exercises, everything from young kids to seniors are finding ways to combat the mental stresses through their own physical health. Financial security. There was a comment about how people are concerned about their finances, and people are looking now at financial security, and did they need to buy that? Some people were spending money in the community because they had that money. They weren't going on the city trips, or we're not doing the vacations, so people were spending money locally, doing things and having fun, enjoying life. It appears nationwide that people are realizing that there's ways to enjoy life and have fun with your family, with your friends. You just gotta go out and think outside the box and find ways to do that. So I think I've captured everything. And then the last slide is for FCSS, and that's the top 4 priorities that will be moving forward. FCSS will be meeting strategically to this year to determine what the next 4 years looks like for this dynamic group, and look forward to working on that project. Does any members of council have any questions for myself or Jasmine?
Councilor Riddick, go ahead.
Thank you, Jasmine. It's great to see all the work that's gone into this and be able to understand some of the data sets that you gave to us. I just wanted to comment on back in 2017, when we were beginning the studies and trying to figure out what the impact was to the community about the closure of the case processing center and what that meant as a community. It's kind of interesting to go back and read that report and then compare it to this one, because again, a lot has changed in those 4 years, never mind what's happened in our community in the last year and a half. So I really appreciate just having that snapshot then and the snapshot now, just to see what's changed. What I was going to mention is the talk about mental health supports. This morning at the Vegreville Community Health Services Awareness Meeting, there were a few supports that they talked about and some increased funding that's been put towards mental health. So I'm glad to see that not only are people aware that there is support in the community, whether that means through Fcss counseling and such, but there are other supports that are available, such as recreational therapy that's going to be dedicated towards supporting people in the home. So just wanted to thank you for your work and highlight, I'm looking forward to see what Fcss comes forward as the inputs moving forward as their priorities. I just wanted to know from you though, Jasmine, do you feel like people were engaged that wouldn't normally, or is this a set of citizens that always answers every time? Or did you think that you really reached out and got some responses from people that we don't usually hear from?
I would say that we did reach some people that we don't usually hear from, especially if you just read through the comments list, especially from all our written response answers. Some of them are quite in depth, and some of them are what you would expect, and a lot of them are not what you would expect. And I think the ones that we wouldn't expect are the ones that we don't hear from too often, right? So yeah, I am sure you guys will get a majority of the data to review, but when you have that chance, it's awesome to read some of it.
Well, what I can see here is a lot of a disconnect to the community with the youth or the young adults. They seem to have the most the mental challenges with the whole COVID related issues. The older people are, the more comfortable they are with who they are and where they're at and how they got there and their financial ability to cope with this. But I know, talking to other young adults that are my children or around different parts of this country and this province and in another country, they all seem to be about the same age that have more disconnect with their community than anybody else. It is kind of strange how COVID affected, because if everybody was on their phones the whole time, what would have changed to me? I don't really understand that part, but somehow they just feel a little more disconnected. Then they have more challenges with coping with the restrictions. And is it some sort of weird phenomenon? I don't understand it. Do you have any comments on that, Jasmine, at all, or what you've heard? Or
Yeah, I actually had some statistics. I'm just gonna, one sec, I'm just gonna find them to speak to them. Because yeah, we saw a higher proportion of people aged 19 to 45, so those two age groups, feeling the most impacted. Specifically, it was 78, I think, % of young adults who are feeling helpless, 70% who are feeling anxious, and then 52% of them indicated loss of pleasure and interest in daily activities that they used to find that they used to enjoy, right? And when we looked to those who were 18 and under, 67% reported lack of motivation. And so that's one thing to consider. Like, through our survey, 5% of those all our survey participants were those 18 and under, but we see that of those who answered, 67% have that lack of motivation. Just overall, it's really hitting young people hardest, for sure, especially with financial situations. We saw, I think it was around the 50s % of men in particular were more concerned about their financial outlook, how that would look after COVID, whether it be job loss or just job instability. So yeah, I'm hoping that answered your question.
sure, Councillor Berry, you had a comment?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I thoroughly enjoyed the presentation, and I think the information that's been gathered is going to really be helpful. On the subject of youth and motivation, I'm glad that Jasmine brought up the motivation. I think that is what I'm seeing is the kids with such a disruption of schooling and in sports that their motivation has really definitely has been hurt. They're looking at all the job losses that are going on and trying to figure out what niche can they start planning for. And with universities going online and subject, I think that's the aspect is they feel isolated. They can have their phones, they can have all of their communications. It isn't the same. And I think the isolation and the amount of times the schools are getting closed down and going online, I think it really has hurt the youth more than what we realize. And I hope that we can bring back their motivation. I hope we can get them really wanting to work on things. I think things have changed in the last few years, and I think you'll find that some of the honor students are struggling as well. They actually, their motivation is lost. And I'm glad that you brought that point. I think that's the big word for youth is looking into the future and trying to figure out what's their future going to tell for them the way this has been going. Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Riddick.
Thank you, Councillor Barry. And just sort of to capture what both your worship and Councillor Barry talked about, I think the hope for the future is kind of what I'm seeing in that segment too. And as we're moving forward, I understand that FCSS will be looking for their priorities in the next couple of years, but I wonder if there's anything here that we need to bring back and talk about as council as we move forward too, just to make sure that we are providing that energetic, vigorous approach that is appealing and motivating to the youth. If we're really talking about the youth, it's under 49, I think is what you said, that younger segment that answered. But it really is, it's changing what everybody expected. It's sort of turned expectations on its head. So I don't know how we'll be able to answer that, but I do know that FCSS will be working on the preventative part of what this looks like for our community. But I also wonder if there's something else as we're trying to actively promote the community for economic development purposes, bringing people to the community. We also want to make sure that there are things for them to stay here and want to remain here. So it's not just enough to move out of the city because it's an affordable house, but we want to engage and connect with the community. So I wonder if there's things there too that would be a council directive.
Who and Councillor Waters? Sorry, Councillor Waters.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Yeah, the hope for the future is always there, but it's the uncertainty, and that's for a lot of people. So, and the youth for sure, the 49 and under, but hopefully as well, as long as Vegreville is striving and thriving, we have things coming. We have things to look forward to, as Councillor Rudick said, to show our population, our youth here, that there are reasons to stay and there are reasons to be hopeful. And maybe we can reiterate that a little more with FCSS as well as a group, council, FCSS, the community itself. Bigger and better things are coming.
Excellent. And I was, during my first read of it, it was nice some of the comments recognize some of the work that we have been doing. You know, the feel-good things, the candle parade, the Santa parade, and other things that we've done in the community, just trying to uplift not just youth, but everybody's, you know, well-being, try to bring it up that little bit. So, and again, well done, Jasmine. We appreciate the information, and hopefully this survey is not just going to sit on a shelf, that it'll be brought into basically have a role in how we move forward in our community with these comments. I know COVID shouldn't always be here, but hopefully just taking some of this information and just applying it to everyday life for this community will help. So does anybody else have anything they'd like to say to Jasmine while she's still here? Okay, so again, on behalf of council and the citizens of Vegreville, thank you for your work.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Okay, up next is Phil Rowe.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a letter to Mayor and Council, and it's from the Pride Week Planning Committee in regards to Pride Week 2021. The proposal is celebrating LGBTQ2S+ Pride Week during June 14th to 18th, 2021. The proposal comes from multiple organizations and individuals here in Vegreville, including Vegreville and District F Family and Community Support Services, Begal Drunk Society, Vegreville Centennial Library, Brianna Pearson Pavola, and the Mental Health Capacity Building. We all believe that it's important for the town of Vegreville to recognize and stand for the acceptance of the LGBTQ2S+ community members in Vegreville. For the purpose of our letter, we'll be referring to ourselves as the Pride Week Planning Committee. The background: Pride Month is currently celebrated each year in the month of June to honor the 1969 Stonewall Uprising in Manhattan. The Stonewall Uprising was a tipping point for the gay liberation movement in the United States. In Alberta, the first Pride celebration was held in Edmonton in 1980 and became a week-long festival in 1983. Since then, Pride events have become more popular in urban centers, but unfortunately, rural areas are struggling to show support for their LGBTQ2S+ community members. Looking at the Town of Vegreville Strategic Plan for 2018 to 21, there are three main goals that can be addressed if Council decides to take part in Pride Week this year. Section 4 under Culture, 4.2 Celebrating Diversity, Section 5 in Social, Welcoming Community, Safe Community. It is important to note that both Ale Horton Elementary School and Vegreville Composite High School have gay-straight alliances. This is important and desperately needed because LGBTQ2S+ youth face approximately 14 times the risk of suicide and substance abuse than their CIS, gendered, and heterosexual peers. Studies show that key factors for positive mental health and well-being for LGBTQ2S+ individuals include support from family and friends, particularly for youth, visible representation in the workspace and community, supportive workplaces and neighborhoods. By celebrating Pride this year, the town of Vegreville would be showing these young children and teens that their community supports them and cares for them, thus creating an accepting community in which they will want to remain even after they graduate. Communication strategy: the Pride Week Planning Committee will do all the advertising via social media and safe space posters around town. We ask that the town of Vegreville would share the post on their social media and Town of Vegreville website calendar. Social media posts will be created by different members of the Pride Week Planning Committee in an attempt to educate people on LGBTQ2S+ matters. The post will consist of explaining what a gay-straight alliance is, the difference between pride flags and the importance for each, different mental health facts, including statistics concerning suicide and drug addiction within the community, the importance of pronouns and gender identity. The recommendation: they are asking for town council support in celebrating and recognizing Pride Week here in Vegreville, which would include raising a pride flag at the town administration office during June 14th to 18th, 2021, and or painting a Main Street intersection crosswalk to match the pride flag, similar to how it was done in Airdrie and Smoky Lake. They thank you for their consideration on this matter, and they look forward to hearing from us. And that is signed by Kristen McSween on behalf of the Pride Planning Committee.
Thank you, Phil. Any comments on the letter? Okay, Councilor Rudick.
I think it's great. It might be controversial in some senses, but we talk all of the time about making sure that our community demonstrates and endorses the idea of diversity and inclusion. And this is a very simple way for us to be able to do that. I don't think that there's anything too controversial about what they've asked for, although there might be some people that are concerned that it hasn't been done up to this point. I know the city of St. Albert just painted the crosswalk in front of the art center that's in the center of town, and it's been a very positive public crosswalk in the community, and happy to see that there are other small towns like Smoky Lake that have made this move as well. So I think it's a great idea, and I would be interested to see the council support this.
Okay, Councilor Warwood next.
Just a couple of things, because I knew that this discussion was coming today, so I had an opportunity just to ask. I just wanted to know whether members of the GSAs had been consulted, because I had had a discussion with a friend within the LGBTQ community, and a concern was raised with me from them that occasionally sometimes initiatives are put forward, but they haven't actually talked to the people that the initiative is representing. So I did ask that, and it is my understanding that along with this, they have spoken with some of the students and some people that would be directly impacted. I have no issue with us, starting to make a step. We've, promoted inclusivity. My preference at this time, I have no issue, in regards to discussion of the raising of the flag. I would like us, though, if we are going to consider doing that, also having a further discussion about what our policy would be in regards to raising of flags in general, just because I think that whenever we look at this, are we going to say that it is, as per request basis, or are we going to put some policy in place, just because we know that that can be the start of multiple groups or organizations. So I think it would be a good thing to at least know what our decision is as to what process we would follow with raising a flag. At this time, my preference would be that we did not go immediately to the painting of the crosswalk. And my only reason to this is not being opposed to that. We had talked about painting of a crosswalk prior, and there were still some logistical things we were working out, because remember we had discussed it, even possibly putting some of the colors of the eggs and whatnot at the crosswalk. So I think that needs to be a little bigger discussion. And in the talk that I had with a friend of mine, the one concern that was raised to me was that there is nothing that hurts inclusivity more than the possibility of a group feeling like there's backlash. I don't want to, and I don't want to believe that that would be, but I'd like to see that we start off with a step that possibly would be less open to some intolerant possible vandalism or whatnot, because I don't feel like there's any way worse to hurt a group that we're trying to embrace than to see a messaging such as that. I'm not saying we don't do it in the future, but my start would be a preference not to go with the crosswalk. That's just some of my thoughts, but I certainly embrace the letter that comes forward and would be happy to even discuss with this group if they would be more comfortable at some point, even talk to the council if it wasn't an open format, but would like to sit down. I certainly want to make sure that they're feeling heard. So that's my thoughts.
Okay. Any other comments? Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Councillor Rower. I was thinking about the flag protocol that we have. We've done this for others. If there have been other requests, kind of like what we do for one organization or group, we should do for another, not just the one-off. So thank you for bringing that up. With the crosswalks, I was thinking, because they are asking for just the 1 week, I think myself that should be all right, but as long as it's something that will come off within a week kind of thing, because we have proclamations for other organizations. Right now is Royal Purple Week, I believe it is. So we have that proclamation, and whatever the Royal Purple organization is going to be doing is for the one specific time period. So with painting of the crosswalk, that would be my concern, is something that wouldn't be permanent, but something that would be easily taken off, I don't know, chalk or whatever the case is. I'm not an artist at all to talk about painting. Something that is temporary, and then maybe even if the Chamber of Commerce, as we have with Pissinka Days, we have storefronts that are decorated for that. Maybe that's something that can be incorporated as well. But of course, that is up to this planning committee, but just a thought that it should be on an individual basis, as we have with the Ukrainian Days as well.
Okay, oh, thank you. So moving forward here with this request, it'll be read at the next council meeting, and it'll be a motion to receive and file. And then we should have some information by then, Phil. What is our policy on raising flag? Do we do it for what organizations? Because there must be some protocol that as a municipality that we work under for that. And I mean, the paint the crosswalk is not a big deal. Just if we have a little bit of what our policy is right now regarding whose flag we do fly and when and for how long, just so council is aware of that. So if everybody, for the next council meeting, this will be brought forward for a motion, and we will have a little more information, and then we'll be able to get back to this organization with our answer. Councillor Lemko, you want to say something?
Yeah, I sure did, Your Worship. And I agree to the points of all three councillors who spoke on this. We did send out a welcoming, inclusive, and connected community survey, and that data has just been brought in and is being compiled by the survey team. But more importantly, we talked about being a diverse and inclusive community. So we need to put a strategy together out of the survey so that we can meet the needs of the whole community and the people that reside and choose to reside here. So give us an opportunity to digest that results and put that strategy together before we start putting up flags and doing that for one and not for the other. The strategy needs to be all-encompassing for all groups. So I'm totally for it. I just don't know in what format at this point and how it meets, and is it on an ask basis, or how do we do that? So, or do we recognize Black Lives Matter and all those things? And I agree that we need to, but how we do it is another thing. So, I guess we can decide on Monday, but I'm for it, and we'll see where that strategy goes.
Okay, so I'll tell you a bit of my thoughts here. We've been asked to recognize certain days and fly flags before. There is, in the Southeast Asian countries, there is like some governments that are in exile that feel that if we were to support them by declaring a name of a week to them, so that they could let the government of China know that they're still a country, but we don't support everything. We're not going to be running flags up and down all day long. But if we have a policy of what we're doing, and I know that we're about being inclusive, this council is, and we're going to do something to help this organization to recognize that week. I know we will, but we should have a policy in place about the flag, because I don't want it going backwards on us, or there be, somebody, well, if you did it for this group or that group, we should be changing it every week for somebody else. So let's just take a look, see what our protocol is up to now. We'll build some policy around it. And by Monday, we will be helping them recognize their week for sure. So the decision will be made on Monday because it's getting closer. And as an organizing committee, they'll want to know moving forward what it looks like. So is everybody okay with that? Okay, perfect. You got one more here, Phil.
Yes, I do, Your Worship. This is a letter addressed to me through to council. It is from Vegreville Elks Lodge, number 143, in regards to the gazebo at the Elks Kinsman Park. Over the past 2 years, the Vegreville Elks Lodge has been working on a proposal to construct an 18 by 24 heritage-style gazebo adjacent to the Pesinka at the Elks Kinsman Park. There's some photos and information enclosed. The town of Vegreville has previously given a letter of support for the project to include in several applications at securing a grant for this project under the Alberta government's CFEP program. Our application has been refused twice, and they have applied a third time, but do not expect a reversal on their negative decision for our project. The Elks Lodge was prepared to fund the project when construction costs were within the budget approved for this project. It's $30,000. Unfortunately, construction costs have recently increased and now exceed the amount the Elks Lodge is prepared to spend on the project, while still being able to provide financial support to other needy charitable groups in the community. The latest cost estimate for this project is $35,900 and will likely increase over the summer. This gazebo will enhance the existing facilities at the park and will definitely provide a place for visitors to relax while enjoying the park. The Elks Lodge is requesting the town of Vegreville consider sharing 50% of the cost of this project, or a fixed amount that would align with the town's financial policy. And that is signed by George Childs, Exalted Ruler, Vegreville Elks Lodge 143.
Okay. Any thoughts? Councillor Rajak.
When I first heard of this project a couple of years ago, I was thinking that it was a much needed addition to the Pysanka Park, the Elks Kinsman Park. It's unfortunate, I guess, that we didn't take this into consideration during our planning of our MSP funds that we were provided by the province. I'm just wondering if we could ask that, have they approached the Kinsman Club of Vegreville to fund half of this, since we often refer to the park as the Elks Kinsman Park? And this seems to be a project that has been taken on solely by the Elks, so perhaps an ask could be made of the Kinsmen to see if they would possibly be interested in funding the other half.
I don't, Councillor Brodziak, I don't believe they've inquired about that, because I do know the Kinsmen are currently working on a project, large project for 2022 at the park. So I don't believe I could certainly check with the Kinsmen and the Elks and see if that has been discussed.
Okay.
Okay. Well, if there's no other comments, this letter will become the next council meeting to be received and filed. Council Rudy.
So I guess I'd be curious to know, if we had it in the budget, if it would be able to be constructed this year. Just even after we had our meeting the other night, the number of people that were gathered at the park, and it's not peak season. It really isn't that hot, although today it's a different season than it was yesterday and will be tomorrow. I just wonder if there isn't some partnership possible immediately, if there is a need for it. I mean, it's so busy down there already. Is there any pocket of funding that we'd be able to consider before we move forward to Monday night, if we should be researching that before then?
How many more letters do you think we would receive by the next Monday with every other project that didn't receive a grant funding? So just please keep that in mind. As council, we've set our priorities in our budget, and this wasn't there. And we've helped other community organizations with loans to carry their projects forward at times, or support them in applying for grants. But when we take on a role being a partner with one, you open yourself up to be a partner with the rest, because when that precedent gets set, I just would encourage everybody to remember that when we use our budget allocated money for priorities that we put forth, it's a little different when service clubs come to us with the request for what their plans are. And I'm not knocking this. I mean, that we supported it with a letter, and it will be, when it's done, it will be a worthy addition to their park. And but I would just encourage council to be careful about moving forward when you set precedent like this, because there is a lot of nonprofits in our community that would love to take on a lot bigger roles in projects if the town was financing half of them, half the cost. So
I totally appreciate that.
Politically correct enough for everybody.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I understand the cautionary tone that you have, and appreciate that there are many priorities that we have as a council. I guess what my question was, is there an appetite at this table if there were a need that was demonstrated and there was space in the department, it didn't come forward at budget time, if there was not a partnership to be sought? So it sounds like your worship is not in favor of that necessarily at this time, given the priorities that we have at this time. I guess that would be my question. As Councillor Brodziak had asked about the Kinsmen are otherwise dedicating their efforts, but if there were perhaps others in the community that might be looking for this type of project.
And I respect everybody here has their own opinion. And all I'm doing is just counseling a little bit on what the concerns that I would have, okay? Sorry, I'm not trying to say that your opinion isn't good or isn't right, but Councillor Barry.
Your worship. From my recollection of when we were first supporting this, we were supporting an Elks totally funded addition to the park area. I'm not certain if I could now say that I want to partner at 50% of it, although I'm still interested in seeing it going forward. I think before to try and make any further decision on it, I would like to be reminded as to what the project was really about in terms of the design or the location, and as to whether there's anything in our master plan that you're developing, Director Rowe, in terms of parks and green spaces as to how this fits in. And I do agree with you, Your Worship. We have to be cautious as to how we look at funding proposals from various nonprofits. Our reserves could deplete very quickly. And I think that we have to look at our priorities overall. Thank you.
So I'm sorry, maybe we should have refreshed everybody's memory about what this project that the Elks were looking for. Bill, do you have it there, or do you want me to do it, or?
Yeah, so the Elks proposed to build, construct a wooden gazebo structure that would be clad with metal sleeving. And through, after just some discussions, we changed the location slightly, moved it to a better location. It is in the master park plan that is being developed. It'd be a great addition, but there are a lot of things that are going to be identified in the master plan for the park to make it that premier destination for our residents and visitors. And once that plan is proposed, then we can certainly start looking, down the road as to what the council will decide what the priorities are from that plan. So it's a great location. It's a great structure. It'll be highly used for sure.
So it was a cement slab with a roof over top as the protector from weather, and there was going to be tables in there that people could sit and eat and stuff. It was like a gazebo, but a permanent version setting on a cement slab.
Yes, that's correct.
There was no walls involved in it.
No, four open-sided, and it should fit approximately four picnic tables, but once COVID's over.
So this letter will come up on Monday's meeting and to be received and filed. And again, if your opinion matters, and bring what you think and what your thoughts are to Monday's meeting. And then if there's a proposal put forward, we'll vote on it. So. Okay, thank you, Phil. Dale LaFave is up next. IP&D.
Thank you, Worship. The attachment that you have there is a correspondence that was sent from the town to the county once we had received a notice of application for an accessory building on the freed property, which neighbors the town boundary. I've included an aerial so you can just get an idea of where the residence is, where the town boundary is. And as you know, the zoning for that area in the town side is business industrial. And then across from that as well is also urban reserve. On the county side, it's all direct control. The town was opposed to the development of the residence in 2015 and again in 2016. The resident was approved by the county and it was built, obviously. And now that they're introducing the addition of a 60 by 72 foot personal storage building, the town feels that it intensifies the use that doesn't conform with our future plans. So we simply wrote them another formal correspondence letting them know that. Since then, I've received the notice of decision and the conditions have been approved and the development's been approved by the county.
So they write us the letter as part of just the whole process. No different than we objected to the house being built there, but eventually if a smokestack or a small industry building was to go right against that property, of course, that resident would probably object to it. But the fact is that that's what it's zoned for us, and then their zoning leaves it open to whatever they want to put in at the time. So, and it was just, it's all protocol. Is they did what they were supposed to do, and we back with the same answer that we always do when we want to build residence in a light industrial area or next to one. So, okay, thank you, Dale.
Welcome.
Mr. Paul Casey, Corporate Service Director, and up next.
I'll fill in for Paul. Paul's away for the next couple weeks. So what you see is a request for council decision regarding the 2021 tax sale and reserve bids. This is an annual legislated process that we are required to follow through the Municipal Government Act. So properties that are in tax arrears for more than 2 years are placed on tax notification through Land Title's office. If the properties on tax notification remain in arrears on March 31st, in the year following notification, the municipality must offer these lands for sale by public auction before March 31st in the following year. This year, the town has 7 properties eligible for tax sale. The Municipal Government Act, Section 419, states that council must set a date and reserve bid for each of these parcels as close as reasonably possible to the market value of the parcel and any conditions that are applicable to the sale. The reserve bids are recommended in consultation with Ray Cruz, the town's assessor. So the recommendation is that the 2021 tax sale be set for Tuesday, September 7, 2021 in council chambers, and the reserve bids be set as follows. Tax roll 048300, 60,000. Tax roll 009100, 50,000. Tax roll 153900, 270,000. Tax roll 153800, 35,000. Tax roll 016000, 150,000. Tax roll 286500, 135,000, and tax roll 063201 for 225,000. And further, that the terms of sale be a cash, money order, or certified check. This will go to town council meeting on Monday night. Or pardon me, our council meeting is next Wednesday.
Councilor Warwick.
I'm just wondering, being that we typically don't have massive success with our tax sales, is there like a particular reason why we do our reserve bids higher than the assessment? And does anybody have an opinion as to if we went closer to the assessment, if we would see sales possibly, or if we just think that it wouldn't happen at all? Because it just seems like we put these tax sales and typically almost never end up selling.
When I used to do the tax sale and reserve bids, in talking with Ray Cruz, our assessor, the higher amount is actually for protection to the town, so that we don't go too low on the amount that we would sell a property for. Shy of having each one appraised, which I'm not really in favor of, we work out a number with our assessor on this. But it is to protect the town in this. There have been municipalities in the past that have set lower reserve bids, and because there was a reserve bid set and accepted, the municipality actually had to make up the difference between a market value and what the reserve bid was.
So let's
Okay.
put it this way, Cliff, as long as you've been here, the first time a property comes up on the tax roll for sale, have we ever sold one the very first year?
We've sold one.
In all the years you've been here?
In 16 years that I've been here, we've sold one property through the tax sale. We have sold some other properties subsequent to the tax sale through the next step, then is what's called tax forfeiture. And then the town has to try and sell those properties. And we have sold a few of those. But at the tax sale, there's one that we've sold in the 16 years I've been here. And I will make a comment on this. There are, it's almost cyclical in that there's a number of repeat names on this list that were probably on the list 3 or 4 years ago.
So typically, Councillor Warwa, and what I've seen, and I've asked that question basically 8 years ago, why? What you'll see is it happens just about 93% of them the day before the sale, they get the arrears are either taken care of. And if we were to sell them, then there would be maybe some room for litigation against the town that it was too cheap. And so basically where we do have the reserve bid higher, and we do work with Ray Cruz, our assessor in town, on that price. It gives the resident a chance to try to pay it off before that goes up. And then if that doesn't work, then usually within a short time later. When it goes to the other part that Cliff just brought up, and then once we take ownership of that property, then that's when things will start moving along a lot faster when it regards the sale of the property.
Typically what we find is there'll be notifications going out to all owners and registrants against the title, which would include any financial institutions, mortgages, etc. And we will find the majority of times is where the bank or financial institution will pay the taxes, pay all the arrears taxes in order to have the property taken off tax arrears, and they will not go up for sale then.
So we'll be seeing this on the next council meeting, which isn't
Yes,
Monday, by the way, it's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday, right?
Okay.
Okay.
I guess you're going to be doing Paul's the renovation.
Yes.
Portion. Okay.
Okay. So this is to discuss completion of the administration office renovation. So as you're aware, we have redesigned the front entrance on the second floor of the town office. So there's now a counter at the top of the landing. When you come up the stairs, we've taken out the committee room which was deemed too small for our purposes, and in conjunction with our new chambers, we built a committee room in there as well. But in doing so now, we have the front part of the office has new flooring, new furniture, all of our offices, all the interior of the offices was painted, and what a difference that made. But what it's done now is it's created a new section and an old section. So I'll just read what Paul has here. So administration is proposing to complete the renovation for the remaining administration area and offices. The main administration area and offices are showing their age in relation to the newly renovated area. Carpet areas are worn out, and in several areas, the carpet is taped down to mitigate the tripping hazard as the seams are ripped, lifted, and framed. The fluorescent lighting is inefficient, and the workstations are old and worn. Renovations would include relocating the front counter to the rear of the office to provide a workstation near the vault. Replace the lino and carpet in the high traffic areas with vinyl planking, as is in the council chambers. Replace worn carpet in all remaining area and offices with carpet that matches the newly renovated workspace. New workstations to match those in the newly renovated area. Replace the ceiling tiles and the inefficient lights in the offices, administration area, the foyer, and main floor hallway. Lights will be replaced with the efficient LED lights. These changes would result in a bright, cohesive workspace with increased function and efficiency. As the offices are currently closed to the public, now would be the ideal time to undertake such a project. Strategic and sustainability plan alignment. Project fits into the following sustainability pillars. First, environmental. Change to LED lighting requires less electricity. Economic, it would be the employment of local contractors. And governance, increased effectiveness and efficiency of staff. Financial implications. Estimated cost is approximately $80,000, including a 10% contingency to be funded by the Facility Lifecycle Reserve. Annual savings on electricity bills can be expected by changing to the LED lighting. Service level, staff resource implications, expectation that all work would be done by contractors. Received quotes from local businesses for flooring, ceiling tiles, and lighting. So Paul has attached a copy of the summary of the estimated costs, as well as a diagram of the workplace. So these, the renovations that were in the town office was prior to me coming, but I understood that it was the 2002-2003 era when these renovations were done. And as you can see, when you are up here, the carpet is worn and the workstations we're doing our best to keep them together, but they've served their purpose. They're coming up 20 years old. So, and like I say, with the other improvements, it would make this office alignment just much more efficient as well. So.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? Councilor Berry.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. Having the opportunity of recently walking through there, where you see the new renovations that we did at the front, and then you see the remaining of the room, now would be the appropriate time to upgrade and have it all done at one time. I think that for the workers, when they're in there, I think it would be much, I think they would enjoy it to have the workspace actually improved after this amount of time and bring some of their upgrades into it. So I think that would be a good idea to get this work done at this time.
Okay. Any other questions? Councilor Warlock and then Councilor Water.
I'm just wondering, I see that says received quotes. Did we have an estimated time frame to complete the work?
That would depend on approval here. I know that Paul would start working on this right away. As far as actual timing, we have not lined up dates with contractors because the project isn't approved yet. But the intention would be to start as soon as we can.
Sandra, what do you feel on the furniture? How long would it take to get it?
Sorry, I was having trouble finding my unmute. The furniture actually should only be a couple weeks. It is something they carry, and maybe the odd piece would have to be shipped in from the actual factory, but I suspect we could have all that here before the carpeting and that is actually done.
Okay. So, Councilor Warren, to answer your question, the work itself, once it would be approved, the flooring is ready they could go to the city and pick up the flooring. So it'd probably be all within a month.
I guess I was just kind of wondering, because we're talking about doing it now while the office itself is closed, but there also needs to be a discussion along how long is that intention? How long is the intention to have it closed? Is there plans to maybe go to opening by appointment like some other places have been? Because like if we're talking weeks and months, I think there has to be further discussion whether our intention is to keep our office closed for months more.
Well, on the timeline, no matter what, with the new part that's done, the new portion, and if we decided we're going to be open to the public, the interaction with the public at the new side would not affect that one little bit, where they're
Okay.
renovating everything else in the back.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Waters?
Just a couple of things. I thought the lighting was all changed in our facilities to LED already. I'm guessing administration didn't get that opportunity yet, so that's good to see that being changed. The tripping hazards, that is not ensuring a safe workplace, that's for sure. With this piece being done, so the entire administrative building will be complete now? Is this the last kind of piece of the puzzle?
FCSS offices were approximately 2007, 2008, I think. Does that sound right? Yeah. And then when FCSS moved from the lower level to the main level, we gutted the whole area and retrofit it and redid all those for IP&D, and that was about 2008 or 9 when IP&D moved in there. So they have new equipment in there. There has been virtually nothing done on the second or admin floor since I've been here. So.
Okay, just so everybody knows, some of the lighting and ceiling in the main foyer when you walk into the, that would be changed too. Walking down right through the whole foyer in the middle of the building, that's part of this quote. So the office furniture would match all the new stuff that was just put in upstairs. And the part that we're reusing that front counter, the old counter to the back, because all the employees spent a lot of time in and out of that vault with, and having a workstation back there that you can set everything on would be very important. But is there any other, Councillor Riddick, go ahead.
So I think it makes sense to do renovations all at the same time. I'm just curious why this didn't come forward when we did the budget. Just reallocating, this is obviously in our reserves. We have the capacity in our reserves to cover this. So I guess that would be one question. And then the second question, kind of along the question that Councillor Waters asked, we had a business or building master plan that was presented in 2010. I believe it was, that showed the life cycling of the facilities, et cetera. I wonder if it might not be a good idea when we're all done, all of these different projects, to come back and revisit that and just take a look again, because we have some facilities like Public Works Building, for example, that has not, it's had periodic upgrades. There are other places that we haven't addressed. It would be nice to be able to see all of that together again and see what else we need to do in terms of HVAC replacement and all those kind of other things.
Well, I'll just say this before you go ahead, Phil. I know that we looked at that master plan on facilities originally. COVID sort of sped up what we're doing here with council chambers and stuff, just to get us more in line with today, how we're going to be more open to the public with our new facility. And again, then we had to make these decisions upstairs. So right now, this whole thing that happened at the town hall, but most of it's under a grant, so thank God. Other than economic development and this new upgrade here. And I'm surprised nobody asked me what was in the facilities life upgrades or life cycle. I think it's just a little under $500,000 in that reserve. Is that correct?
Yeah, and to answer your question, Councillor Riddick, to follow up from Mayor McPhee, the renovations that were done on the second floor was part of the COVID funding that we were not expecting, but we changed the format of the way the front office was laid out, and it was not budgeted or planned. It was money that came through, and we put it towards that, where it's definitely an improvement, not only to the office, but also for the COVID restrictions that were in place. So that's why this didn't come forward at the time, is because that was a provincial and federal grant funding.
So moving forward in that reserve, hopefully there's any savings this year out of the budget, we can top that back up and get right back onto the plan that we were on before with the life cycle of our facilities.
And if I recall, one of the major concerns on this building and the life cycling plan were the heating units. So, because we have 7 units for this building. But
Bill, you were going to say something?
Yeah, just to kind of reiterate that, we have made notes in our master plan. Mike has done that. So all what's been done is being added as notes to the plan. And the facilities master plan focused on windows and the mechanical, the HVAC systems, and those are in the facilities budget moving forward, I think 2024 and 2025.
Okay, so you've all seen the sketch, which I really appreciate the fact that they're putting in a large table and some chairs so the employees all sit down when they can all talk to each other. That in the lunchroom where 3 are standing outside with sticking their head in the door and 3 more are turning their necks to talk to them. I just do think that it'll create a lot better atmosphere for the employees on a break and stuff, that they can actually all sit and look at each other instead of a couple standing in a doorway looking in. And so anyway, this will come up for approval on Wednesday's meeting. Okay, now you got your own stuff to worry about here now, Cliff, your sustainability plan update.
so our sustainability plan that was adopted, was presented to council on May 20th, 2020, and was adopted by council on June 22nd, 2020. The strategic stretch priorities outlined in the sustainability plan were social priorities, which were develop outdoor leisure recreation spaces. So we were to look at private and public partnerships, event center, playgrounds, walking trails, and green spaces. And the second initiative was economic priorities, which was shovel-ready commercial and industrial land. So under the social priorities, the first part was the private and public partnerships, and we have worked on the Foxview Park development, the BMX section development. The work will be donated by 2 local contractors. There's our private partner, private investment, playground equipment, and the play area development. Hockey nets and basketball hoops is the public investment. We anticipate completion by the end of August of 2021. At the event center, renovation work at the former Sports Hall of Fame commenced in January 2021. The plumbing, electrical, excluding the lighting, framing and drywall has been completed. Kitchen upgrade is in progress. Town staff are painting in the new area that was recently renovated. Flooring, windows, lighting, and ceiling tiles will be installed once the painting is completed. Estimated completion date is mid to late June 2021. And then we'll also look at a long-term plan for camping, including group sites, and we're proposing that for 2022. Under playgrounds, the Kinsman Park playground, the wood chip base will be removed and the base expanded by 1,800 square feet by town staff. Installation of new playground equipment, pouring of the rubber floor top coat. Estimated commencement of construction is mid-May. Estimated completion by the end of June. And on that one, I will add weather permitting. So the walking trails, the Northeast Loop, which originates at the outdoor rink, going east to Man-Made Lake, and then south past St. Martin's School to Pasanka Park. So approximately 1.3 kilometers of paved walking trails. Estimated commencement of construction is late May of this year, this month, and estimated completion in June next month. Southwest Nature Trail, stage 1. So approximately 1.5 of recycled asphalt walking trails. We plan to start in June and plan to be completed by the end of August this year. The Northwest Nature Trail in the area of North Parkway Drainage is a future project, and the county has offered to supply gravel for naming rights of the trail. We will work on the development on that. The Visitor Information Center to the museum site. This is a walking trail that would run parallel to Highway 16A. We've applied for Canadian Healthy Communities Incentive Grant in May, and we're waiting for approval on that. And we also have to work on a design for that path as well. But I think that will be fantastic once the museum then will be up and operating. Green spaces, we're going to be replacing the rotten parking posts with spherical concrete bollards at Pasanka Park, and that will be in this summer. The paddle boats have arrived. The dock will be built before the May long weekend. Our outdoor movie screen has been purchased. However, due to COVID restrictions, drive-in movies are all that are allowed at this time, and Canadian Tire has granted permission to the town for use of their parking lot for setting up the big screen. So once the COVID restrictions are off, the plan is to have the outdoor screen. We can use it in the park as we have done in the past with rented screens. So any questions on section 1?
Councillor Barry, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I think it's important for us to also comment, though, that much of that work that we're doing there is under a special grant that we were able to get a hold of correctly.
Sure.
Okay, yes, it was through the Municipal Sustainability Program grant. So that the province announced after our budget was approved, came through late December, January. So, and council had allocated funding for parks and green spaces, event center, etc. So, okay. Section 2, shovel-ready commercial and industrial land. Prosperity Industrial Park, formerly Southeast 17 Industrial Park. The town was awarded the ISIP grant in August of 2020. I've put the funding structure there at 50%, 33%, and 17% with the federal government, provincial government, and the town respectively. This project was segregated into 3 sections for tendering purposes. The sanitary sewer lift station, tenders for the sanitary sewer lift station were received and reviewed in mid-April, and the tender was awarded the first week of May. Estimated commencement of construction is June 2021. Estimated completion of construction for the sewer lift station is January of 2022. On-site services, which include the waters, utilities, and the roads. The planning is to have the tender out by the end of May. The design is currently being reviewed. So then we'll get the dates once the tenders come in. Off-site services, we're waiting to review the design, and the plan is to go to tender by the end of May. And this is the sanitary sewer line from the new sewer lift station north to the sewage lagoons. The marketing plan for these secondary agriculture and light industrial, the naming for the park was completed. You were all involved in the process there. And then with the hiring of our economic development manager and communications and marketing manager, these 2 managers and myself have had discussions with the mayor regarding preliminary concepts for developing prosperity industrial, developing a prosperity industrial park marketing plan. So.
Hey, thank you very much, Cliff. So those were some of the things that were laid out and what we wanted to accomplish, and we're checking off some boxes. We said that wasn't our priority, was to check boxes, but that's what we're doing. So. Any questions about that moving forward? Okay. Well, thank you, Cliff, for the update. I appreciate it. Okay, so the next one is me. So we received a letter from the Crow's Nest Past looking for our support regarding the Eastern Slopes coal exploration and public consultation. Did we not already agree to write a letter on this one already, Cliff?
Our letter that we'd originally received was from Town of High River.
Oh, right, okay. So again, this is just another letter, and we've already, we're not expected to write a letter to every, go ahead, Cliff.
And actually this letter from Crow's Nest Pass is a copy of a letter addressed to Town of High River.
Okay. Okay.
Just, it's here for information.
Okay. And the next that we have is letters again from the town of Etzen and Didsbury and the county of St. Paul regarding the provincial and Claire's home. What else did I miss? That's it. Regarding the province going ahead with looking at the provincial police force. And they're all basically the same letters that we've looked at before, and they state that they feel that nobody's happy with what the province is doing. Has anybody else changed their opinion since the last time we talked about writing letters of support, or we're just going to stay where we're at from the last time? Okay, so basically, just so everybody understands, we are not upset with the RCMP at all in the service that they're delivering in our community. We feel the province is using this tool against the federal government proposing this provincial police force. So we're just going to set back and see where it plays out first, is what our angle is here. Okay, Councillor Rudick.
Sorry, maybe I have a different recollection. I was in favor of writing a letter, but I understand that our colleagues weren't. Were we going back and getting some more information about, I felt that maybe some people felt like they needed more information about this. And then just to circle back to the previous letter, have we sent out a letter already? I didn't see one, but that doesn't mean that it hadn't been done already for the protection of the water.
Go ahead, Cliff.
Yes, after the council meeting where that was received and filed and a letter be forwarded, I did send a letter through to Town of High River, copied AUMA and RMA. So the other information, I had contacted AUMA regarding the Alberta Police Force, and they are putting things on hold as far as they're concerned until the provincial report is out from PricewaterhouseCoopers, I think is the company doing it, but until the provincial report is released.
Okay, so Councillor Riddick is still of the opinion that she would like to write a letter of support from these other in favor with the other municipalities. Has anybody else changed their opinion right now then, or do you want to wait until AUMA comes out with what their opinion is? Okay, doesn't look like anybody's changed, so we'll stay where the direction we were given the last time. Thank you. Okay, so next we're moving on to roundtable discussions of what people have heard, and we'll start at the top this time. Considering nobody's at the top, we'll go with Councillor Waters.
Okay, thank you. I received a couple of calls regarding our back alleys. I guess it's that time of year again. I know last year we had a report showing the scheduling of the priority list of back alleys with Mother Nature's approval, how that was going to be addressed. Just wondering if it's prudent to have that report shared again as to what has been done and the priority list of the scheduling continuing from here on.
Maybe we could just ask Dale for a little update on the scheduling and the piece of equipment that we are looking at leasing to get in there to do some of this work. Dale, if you can give us an update, please.
Yeah, we have moved forward on the list. We accomplished quite a bit last year. Of course, spring is the spring. It wasn't near as bad this year because it was dry. We may get some more moisture yet, for sure. I hope so anyway. But we're moving forward. The plan has been updated. We've got a few to work on. We have some of the big projects. So we're actually going to put in some storm line in, and that's going to be going ahead this summer. So we do continue to take the list, and we just keep updating it and moving along. I don't know what information it'd be up to the Cliff if he would like to issue it out or not, but I trust that. I assure you we're working on them, and they're being updated, and our plan is to continue on with the remainder of the ones as they're scheduled.
Okay, thank you. I know it's a lot of work, and we didn't have the proper equipment. I guess what we had in the beginning was too big, and then we've addressed that as well. So that is terrific. Other than that, really, it was just the back alleys that were being asked of from me.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Warwa.
Well, I didn't have a lot. It was only the one that had come to us before. I just kind of wanted to know what the answer was or what we're looking at. And it was around our town office. I think most people understood closures, didn't have an issue there. They were wondering what we're doing as far as reopening, if we are waiting to the end of certain time periods, or whether it's just looked at again every week, or whether we would consider opening by appointment. In the two calls that I got, I did sort of say that several communities are doing the same as us with a closed door. But I do know that there are ones that are fully open because there is some ability when you are a municipality or considered government in some way to open. So just wondering like how we're approaching that, if we're just looking at it on a week by week basis, or if we're waiting for a specific change in regulation.
Cliff?
At this point, we are following the provincial protocols as far as COVID, where actually the current enhancement that's in place is that for those employees that can work at home, and we are to limit the amount of public within our buildings. So appointments are available by phone. And same with at the front doors, we have all the numbers listed, so they can, the specific department then representative will bring the person in. So whether it's for payments or FCSS or IP&D, et cetera, or ECDEV. So.
Okay, so appointments are available by phone. Okay, I will, that's good so that I can share. Because I will tell you that regulation that we mentioned from AHS isn't the standard in the way that people automatically go, because the way they worded it, we don't actually have to do that. We don't have to be closed. We can decide, because granted, while they do say they're encouraging people from home, it also allows the employer the ability to determine whether or not productivity is better within person. So just so that we're aware, there is a large gamma of how some communities are doing it to other, because when I did bring that forward, I got a large pushback and started getting names of communities that aren't, and then sent regulation quite aggressively to my phone to remind me that that's our interpretation. So we should just be aware of it, that we as a municipality can bring and could open if we were wanting to, but at least I can let them know that there is the ability for calling in by appointment, because I wasn't realizing that. So thank you, I will let them know. That answers it.
Okay. And just further to that, since we became a, not a hot zone, what's the word? We're increased risk.
High region, yeah.
High region. So those new guidelines will be in effect for another 2 weeks, I guess, here. So. Thank you. Councillor Lemko.
Yes, Your Worship, thank you. I'm encouraged by the amount of activity in the community right now, and seeing a lot of our local people out doing what they do. I did like the updated report from Cliff regarding the sustainability plan, and I'm excited to see, and I will be excited to see construction begin on our walking trails and our parks and our playgrounds. And I do notice that there's a lot of people out using our walking trails, cycling, walking dogs, and doing all that. So it's encouraging and exciting, and making Vegreville a place to hang your hat as your home. I have no complaints from anybody in the community that have called me for anything, so I'm happy.
Thank you. Councilor Rudick.
Thank you. I had some follow-up conversations with people after our, I guess we can call it public consultation, our visit with the neighborhood, the new walking trail. So just sort of an in-between question, sort of what Councillor Warwood was asking. There was some concern that there was no place, it said in the documentation that people were to submit their feedback into the Dropbox. And when you come to the front door, it doesn't say Dropbox. There is something that's labeled for mail, and there's something that's labeled for taxes, but it's unclear that it actually is a Dropbox. So that was identified in the letter. So just clarifying that sometimes when the public doesn't come to our facilities, very often that we need to be very specific, make sure that our letters match what we have at the front, and maybe just with an outside set of eyes, taking a look at the instructions at the doors. That would be helpful, I think, just moving forward. And mixed reviews about that experience too, that I know that we did our best to try to reach out to the public, but managing people's expectations and also ensuring that they have a way to be able to provide feedback, understanding that we're looking for their input, but we're not changing the decision is kind of an important way that we're so I would even take the word consultation out of that experience, although they did appreciate us coming out and seeing them there. The other thing I wanted to just acknowledge council here and maybe announce in this format too, that I'm running for first VP for the FCM. And I appreciate the support of the council here and look forward to being able to carry on those conversations over the next couple of weeks. There's been some big changes in the FCM executive table, and so that sort of meant a quick turnaround time and quick decisions. So I appreciate council for your support and administration for working diligently for me to be able to meet that timeline. So thank you very much Sandra and Cliff for making sure that that happened, and to your worship and the rest of the team here. And that's it for today.
Good, thank you. Councilor Brajak.
I haven't received any consultation from the public within our community. I have had the opportunity, however, to shuttle my dad around our community last week. I did a little bit of medical shuttling for him, and then took him around our Vegreville when we returned, and he had lived at my house back in 1998 for a few months, so he was quite familiar with this community. And the one comment that he did say was how clean and how organized everything was looking. He was especially made quite good comments about where the new dealership is located at 47th Street or Bruce, I think it's called Bruce Road, and 50th Avenue. So just a lot of positive things going on, and I was able to let him know about all the construction projects that we're doing, the infrastructure projects. So being a businessman, he really appreciated that all the work that council has done to bring us to this point. So had a great visit with him and proud of my community.
Thank you. Councilor Berry.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't really have anything in this format. I think a bit of a discussion might come up a little bit later with a couple of comments that were made to me, particularly pertaining to our visit of some community people out at Man-Made Lake. So I'd like to discuss that in a different format. Thank you.
Certainly. Okay, well, basically, I've had the spring type of complaints about the neighbors' dandelions problems, and I've guided them in the right direction and what department in town to get a hold of. And I just encourage everybody out there to remember that their neighbors share a fence line, and weeds can go across them back and forth, and everybody try to be tolerant and respectful of their neighbors when it comes to these issues. And basically, I don't know, I'm really excited about the summer moving forward here. I really think this town's going to be super busy, and I'm excited to see that people are looking to hire people right now. And I can hardly wait to get the restaurants and some of the service businesses out there up and running. And I'm just starting to get a better vibe for sure. And hopefully some of these young people in our community can get a summer job and get back and get out and get back to where they were mentally and be motivated. So that's what I'm looking forward to right now. So we'll go to Director Rowe with some highlights about what he's up to.
Thank you, Your Worship. A couple of things. First of all, FCSS, we have a request for some 4 new board members to replace some changes to the board. So there's Brad Sonnenberg, Calvin Somerville, Doris Dallaire, and London Wiley that have all agreed to sit on the FCSS board. So next Wednesday's meeting, there'll be a memo coming to Town Council for your approval of those 4 members. And that will make FCSS advisory board full of all members. Okay. I received a request from a local resident. They would like to put a smoothie, healthy snack bar at the Aquatic Fitness Center. I've been in discussions with them and Mike at Recreation. They'd like to provide healthy smoothies and snacks when the facilities reopen. Unless there's any major concerns from council, I'll work with the proprietor on a formal rental agreement and operation procedures for that particular little business.
Okay.
Also, at the next regular council meeting, I'll be bringing in RCD, and it's for a request for transfer from the reserves for the RV Sandy dump. So this is for parks and open spaces from the general operating reserve in the amount of $16,602 for replacement projects. The reason for the transfer: in August of 2020, Town Council authorized the expenditure of a second RV Sandy dump at the Vegreville Visitor Information Center. Part of the project was completed in 2020 before freezing, and the remainder of the project was completed in April 2021. The remaining balance to complete the project is $16,602. This is a non-budgeted item, and a request for Town Council is to move an unbudgeted funds from the operating reserves to the replacement projects code for parks and open spaces. So the money that wasn't spent went into the general operating reserve from last year. We didn't budget for it. So I'll be making a request for that transfer from the operating reserve.
Just to be clear, the money that didn't go towards that project last year went back into the reserve, and now we're bringing it back out.
That's correct.
Okay.
And one consideration for Town Council, the wayfinding project and highway signage. Would like to have a special planning workshop of Town Council, just due to the length of the wayfinding plan and the highway signage that Bob and I put together. I think it's too much for one of these meetings, so I'd like to have a special working session to go through it, and then bring it back to a ledge meeting after that. So what are your thoughts on that, sir?
Do you have a proposal on the highway signage right now?
What's that, sorry?
You have something to propose to us on the highway signage project?
Yes, and all in conjunction with the whole wayfinding plan. So I think it's too much for a meeting like this, so we should have a special working session.
And I do believe that everybody's input will be important here, as long as there is a proposal to come with the wayfinding. So if it's ready, what can we make work? And then
I'm proposing for in early June, if that would be okay.
I'd love to see it actually earlier, to tell you the truth. The more time we put off, the longer the projects get pushed back. So, I mean, if we can make it, are you ready to go now, or do you still got to put some stuff together?
I still got to put some stuff together, and next week I think there are some people on that are away, so that kind of puts us into the first or second week of June.
Well, let's make it first week here, folks.
So if I come up with a couple of dates, Cliff and I can come up, and then we'll send up a calendar notice. Would that work?
Send it out as quickly as you can, and we'll see who we can all make work. So yeah.
Okay. And that's all I have, sir.
Okay. When is the floating dock going in?
It's actually all constructed. I think they were going to try and put it in this week. Weather pending. I don't know if the ground's going to freeze, but according to Councillor Barry. But yeah, it's scheduled to go in this week, and then we'll do some testing on it and make sure it's all nice and sturdy. And I'm hoping by next week that we can have a paddle dock trial.
Okay. Excellent. I like the fact you turn around with your background and you were looking right where it's supposed to go. That looked pretty good, really. On purpose? I think not. Okay, thank you. Next up, IP&D. Dale, what do you got?
I've got the Southeast 17, the on-site part of the project. We're finalizing the clay base on the final grades as per the stormwater management plan. Now that we've set the pond, we're likely just getting through some details. We've got a lot of cover material that's going to come off, a lot of black dirt. Obviously, it won't all go back on because the type of businesses that will go there aren't going to have a lot of grass, I would assume. So we're just pricing out our options. There's not a lot of area on site to stockpile it. It's going to be a large amount, as you could imagine. So it will, at this point, we're looking at stockpiling it out at the landfill for future use. We, as a municipality with parks and playgrounds and cemeteries, we use a lot of black dirt for cover for grassing areas. Southeast 17, the off-site work, and the off-site work is the directional bore from the lift station to the lagoons. It's also the water line connection from 43rd Street by Timber Mart, and then that will run into down the road into our new industrial prosperity park. So we're working on those. We're throwing out ideas too. Not throwing out, we're checking into ideas for the museum, for example, the event center. We're pricing out a 6-inch high volume water line from that park underneath the highway, underneath the railroad tracks. Then we could have hydrants and a very large water supply, which would encourage further expansion out there, along with our sewer line. And it doesn't cost a lot of money now to get some ideas and some prelim prices while we're at it, right? So we're sitting there. As the town manager said, that our Excalibur is the contractor for the lift station. We're all signed up and accepted and rolling along. And what they're doing now is they've just pulled out the information for the precast. The sump, the wet well, is a precast concrete portion of the build that goes in first. So we're looking at getting that ordered. It has been ordered, but the one place we ordered from, which is a very reputable place, is 6 to 8 weeks away before we get it, which means we wouldn't be able to start construction because that's the first thing that has to go in. So in these times already, we're finding that the inventory isn't there always. So we're looking for different suppliers, but that's just part of the construction and the way it is right now. The other thing is the Capital Works 2021 project. That's our 45th Avenue from the water reservoir to the cenotaph. And then the overlay and concrete work on Main Street. That tender closes on Thursday of this week on May 20th. And I've checked into our APC and bid tender websites where it's posted, and we're getting some good reputable contractors as usual, pulling information out. So that's good. There's still good contractors out there looking for work, and that's good news for us. So things are looking up. We're moving ahead.
Excellent. Thank you, Dale.
You're welcome.
There'll be shovels in the ground here right all over the place right away. So
yeah, all at once. It's going to be a busy summer. You're right, Your Worship.
The feedback I get from most people regarding the downtown resurfacing is, does that mean we're taking out all those pavers and sidewalks and fixing them up? And of course, we can't do that. There will be some curb work where needed though, correct?
There will be curb work where necessary, and there will be some concrete work where the paving stones are, where it's broken and there's trip hazards. So we'll be cutting out portions of that and replacing it and putting the paving stones back in. For now, it's not that big a portion of our expense of the project, so we're going to look after it. That should buy us, 8, 9, 10 years for repair. And we're also looking at the curbs, each crosswalk on our main drag on 50th Street as a concrete bottom that the paving stones sit into, and then a curb. So when you're walking in the middle of the crosswalk, on each side of you is a concrete barrier that separates the asphalt from the paving stone. And those are in very poor condition. So we're going to have to cut those out and then pour new portions in. We'll save the centers. We're going to saw cut out the curb and then re-pour and form. It's just going to make for some very strategic traffic flows when we're trying to shut down complete intersections to get this done. But the last time we did it was over 20 years ago, or 1991 and 92. And we're going to do it again now. I think we can do that once every blue moon like that. So that'll be the inconvenience.
The reason I asked that, and I want everybody to understand in the community here, that the pavers are staying. We're trying to fix them and get rid of the trip hazards the best we can. And if anybody ever tries to talk you to put that into your main street someday, please vote against it. Unless they're done in a form and set in forms and stuff, because it has just always been a struggle trying to keep them in place. So, Councillor Riddick, you have a question?
I did for Dale, and actually sort of following what you were just saying, I just listened to a Municipal World conversation about downtown paving stones with decorative trees that had fruit that went into the businesses as a don't do, but that was a 1990s era design feature. As we're moving forward, and I appreciate that this was talked about on Talk of the Town about the construction down Main Street and a little bit better understanding of what's happening there. When you're talking about the closures, how do we share that with the public again? Because again, we've got lots of things happening, which is great, but people are always concerned, what does it actually mean? We are very lucky, our commutes are very short in Vegreville, but all of a sudden, if you close an intersection and people take 10 minutes instead of their usual 3, then they start to get worried about that. So they want to know, when is it happening and will they be informed beforehand?
And the answer to that is yes, if they know where to look for the information. We're going to put it everywhere we can. We have already gone down the C1 area and hand delivered information on behalf of the town that this project is what's going to happen. And when we get more information, once the tender closes and we know start dates and durations and more contact information, then we will provide that to them. And we've done that down 45th as well to all the residents to let them know that, hey, the front of your residence is going to be a busy place this summer. And we let them know that way. But yes, now with Jameson at the helm behind the controls of communications, I believe that things are going to roll really smooth and hit all the avenues we need to.
Actually, it's a street.
What did I call it?
An avenue. You said all the avenues.
You're right.
Just so everybody understands that it's all weather related too, especially when the resurfacing, we just can't just roll ahead because, it looks dry enough that this moment, it'll all depend on the weather and moving forward, because no matter what, we want the best job for our money that we can have done. So I just want everybody to understand there will probably be some feedback about what portion of the curb and the cement should have been replaced and what wasn't. But we are picking and choosing what we can fit into this project and what the worst spots are for trip hazards. So it's not all of it getting done. So if somebody thinks that, it's not the case. So, okay, thank you, Dale. Cliff, what do you got for your highlights?
Bob and I had a virtual meeting with Jan and Byron of Innotech, together with a representative of a potential hemp processing company. And the meeting was very informative and went very well. And there is some progress that's going to be made on behalf of that company. The fire services agreement, as a follow-up to our IDP committee meeting in April, Phil and I had a meeting with the county CAO and fire chief, which we provided an update from our committee meeting. They will take it back to their IDP committee. It's just right now is tough timing to have a meeting with the farmers in the middle of seeding and spraying. But we are communicating. Bob and I had a meeting with ZAG and Lono to discuss the general awareness campaign. This is through, of course, economic development proposal on a reduced format with the funding that the board provided. I attended the Chamber of Commerce meeting on April the 12th. Some very good information from the speaker there. I was, and it was good to see some Alberta information. So it wasn't all just Canada wide. I thought it was a very good meeting. Attended the public consultation meeting at Man-Made Lake regarding the proposed walking trail on May 13th. And a letter has been sent today to the contractor of the sponsorship program agreement, requesting that the agreement be terminated. So keep your ears open. So, okay, that's my report, Your Worship.
Okay, so everybody sees the upcoming dates. The office is closed and probably will be closed on May the 24th. Probably just Even if you phone Councilor Warwell, you can't get in that day, okay? Let your people know that. You'll be at the lake anyway, so it'll be fine. Regular council meeting is on May the 26th. FCM's virtual conference runs from May 31st to June the 4th. Our next ledge meeting is June the 8th. The regular council meeting, June the 14th. Ledge meeting the 22nd, and the last meeting, regular meeting of council is June the 28th. So that's what we have for our regular meeting on our agenda. We do have a couple of items that we need to speak about in closed session. Is there anybody else that wanted to say anything about in today's meeting? Okay, then I will accept the motion to go into closed session, please. Councilor Waters, thank you very much.